see on the live stream.
What's that?
Okay, when I see on the live stream, I'm going to share this and change the face here.
So just tag me and I'll retweet it.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, just say hello to the camera here.
Isn't that natural? That's it. Oh, is that what you're streaming right now?
Yeah, just sit at the front. I'm going to switch things there.
And have you tagged me in here though?
Yeah, just tag you on Twitter.
It's going to be standing remotely.
Yeah, do you have internet here?
Just a little bit of phone coverage. All I got. I don't know what they have.
Oh, okay. So you see where the visual camera is? It's going all the way from where the notebook is down to the microphone. That's a visual.
Okay, well, I don't tend to walk around too much.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be standing, but I'll...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
find your tweet. Mic on?
Yeah. So now when I'm ready, I'm just going to unmute the phone, the mic.
Have I got an MC or what's
It's now, I think somebody else, maybe the lady that can see, Brandy can I'm going to call her.
not sure what the plan is.
Sure. I could be the MC but running this. And people don't like my accent, so.
Brandy, can you just come to the front, please? Brandy up front. So basically what now?
So basically right now what's happening is that people hear the microphone gets the sound here. Yeah. Yes, okay. I'm not the MC here. It's coming in. Share the people. I'm gonna switch over the base here. So people can see the crowd. See all the people there? Yes. Wow. Isn't that cool? That's what people wanted to see. And actually, now I created a wide angle. See?
Had to turn the button on. Obviously, we have a problem tonight. Anybody upset about that? So, silent auction. This piece of artwork, there's a form. Sandy's holding it up over there. Anybody interested in making a bid on this? At the end of the night, whatever proceeds we get are going to this chapter for our project. Yeah. So thank you to the donator, and I don't. You guys, right on. That's awesome.
Is there an intermission?
Actually, we're going to let Cory talk a bit, and then there'll be question and answers. So at some point, if you need to slip out, Cory might, we won't have an intermission. There's too many people. We don't have time for that. We'll have to, not keep you here all standing in the wings all night long. I'm just going to open with a short word of prayer. Lord, this is a great problem to have, and people that want to make a better country, and I can't imagine you not wanting to get behind that. And that, so we look to you. You say in your word that you raise up leaders and you take them out. So we're just asking that we believe that we're doing something that you would agree with here in making a new nation of Alberta, rescuing this part of Canada for decency and for the rule of law and for prosperity and the good of all people. So we do put ourselves in your hands and ask that you would help us to achieve these goals and that you would be glorified in it. And we thank you for this. Amen. So Cory says he likes to wing it. Yeah, so we're all about that too, right? Okay. November 20th chapter meeting. We normally have 80, 90 people. Yeah, all summer long. And so this is a bit of not a complete surprise, but still we're delighted that this is happening. We started looking last week for a new location because we thought this might happen. Of course, I'm winging it, right? I also, with a prayer, I would like to make a land acknowledgement. And whereas the said commissioners have proceeded to negotiate a treaty with the said Indians, and the same has been finally agreed upon, and it concluded as follows. This it says: the Plain and the Wood Cree tribes of Indians and all other Indian inhabitants of the district here within described and defined do hereby secede, release, surrender, and yield up to the government of the Dominion of Canada for Her Majesty the Queen and her successors forever all the rights, titles, privileges, whatever, to the lands included within the following limits. That's my land acknowledgement. So I didn't make that up. That's right out of Treaty 6. I read Treaty 8, and I will read Treaty 7. I have a family member on Treaty 8 reservation. My dad went to residential school. So I'm very passionate about this, making all Canadians or citizens of Alberta equal for the prosperity of everybody. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Obviously, we're all of the same mind for the most part. There may be some people here who are here because they don't know what we're about and they'd like to find out, and we really appreciate that. I like people who are critical thinkers. They say they teach that in university, but anybody been to university lately? 80% of professors are liberal. We do thank you for the people who have helped with what we do, and we do thank people who have donated to what we do. We do appreciate people donating to the APP online on their website, but we have a project that we're doing in Red Deer that is specific to Red Deer, and we would like if people would partner with us in this project, and that we would be able to be successful with it. We have reached just about 6,000 homes in the last 2.5 weeks, and we would like to reach the whole city. What we're doing is going door to door to homes like single residents, putting these on the doorknob. Is anybody here because of one of these? Got a couple people? Yeah. So Brandy's going to talk about the online response after I'm done with this. So we'd like to reach 42,000 homes in Red Deer. And we're gonna, this is my vision, and I think we share it. We'll go until we're done, or until the referendum is voted on. We need 1.8 million yes votes to pass that referendum. So we're not here to gather signatures for the petition necessarily. We'll take them, but we need that 1.8 million yeses in Alberta of the 4.5 million eligible voters. So we're looking for sponsors and for volunteers for this project. So there's like 3 or 4 of us going around every day into the different neighborhoods. We've got a map, we're doing it systematically, and we're just gonna go as long as it's supported. The short-term goal for tonight is to raise $1,000, because if we buy 10,000 of these units, it costs about $1,000. So that would keep us busy for quite a while, you know, a couple of months of going door to door, which is just past Christmas. Past that point, it would take a total of, from today, $3,600 to get the whole city done. Now, I'm retired. My wife said I should get some exercise. My doctor said I should get some exercise, and the dietitian that told me my blood sugar was high told me to get some exercise. And I couldn't get any exercise till I got a purpose. So now I'm out there doing this. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I guess that's about it for my spiel. So I do ask that if you would want to donate to this project, to get every house in Red Deer hit, to specifically donate to our chapter, and Brandy will have the details on that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm very surprised at the amount of people here, but I love to see you. So I'm able to see real-time numbers for our door knocking campaign. Well, it's door hanging campaign. And I'm able to see that as these guys go out and they put those door hangers out, it's being hit constantly. So we're getting new intent to vote yes. We're getting new intent to vote yes constantly. So every day that these guys are going out, we're getting anywhere from 15 to 100 people signing up for their intent to vote yes. That's incredible. So we really do want to hit the city. If anybody wants to donate to this cause specifically, we will be passing around a donation bucket. There's a couple of them. At some point here throughout the meeting. I'm not sure when right now, I guess. So we'll be passing that around. And if you would like to actually partner with us in like a greater amount, you can just come to me, and then I can give you any of the information that you need for the donating to that. And then, yeah, so we're going to do a question and answer. So Cory Morgan is a columnist at the Western Standard. I don't know if you guys are all aware of who he is and what he does. He's going to do a spiel, and then we're going to do a question and answer. I will be coming around with a microphone for him for the question and answer. I will be holding the microphone while we're doing this so that nobody takes it forever and ever. But yeah, if you have any questions, bring it on. We would love to answer whatever it is that we can. So I guess that's it. So we'll get the guys to pass this around, and Cory can come up and do his thing. Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, hey, Cory, come out and talk to a chapter meeting. Oh, good. A boardroom, 20, 30 people, some donuts? Hey, don't. Oh, this is brilliant. This is just magnificent. And what we're seeing here, endure the discomfort of the standing room only on the back. That's what you get for being late. It's history in the making. We've never seen a wave like this. The Alberta independence movement's been going on. I won't assume, but there's a few people in here look like they were around during Doug Christie's time in the 80s. And we've been stubbornly going at it ever since then. And I've never seen it get to where it is today. I stubbornly started the Alberta Independence Party back in the 1999. Ralph Klein taught us what electoral oblivion was about. We learned a lot more since then. But as I talked about before with this independence, the movement always comes in waves, and then the wave kind of goes back out. But this time is different. It's coming in, and it's still coming in, and it's building, and these rooms are showing it. I've been doing these meetings, and I love doing them. I didn't have to have my arm twisted to come out here, though I would have prepared a little more if I knew it was more than 50 people. Maybe put on a tie or something. But even I mentioned Longview. It was a similar invitation. I went there. That's a town of about 150 people. 50 people were packed in the hall. That's a third of the town out, and I think there was a Blue Jays game on at the time. People aren't just short-term angry. We saw the Wexit kind of come and go. This time, it's due to a couple of things, a few things. Much of it is due to people who have been working their butts off with the APP for years. They've been doing the groundwork, building the network, making something solid, not just a flash in the pan, an anger movement that's going to disappear. This is a group and a movement with a goal that's set, and they've been methodically working the ground and building up this network so we can have a room like this tonight. And I'll just say, I mean, I'm very favorable to the APP. I mean, I've spoken at dozens of these now. I'm not a member of them. I'm not a member of a political party. I write for multiple publications. I have to maintain my freedom to rip the hell out of you when you screw up, as well as compliment you when you do it right. But the APP's been doing most things right, and it shows. This is the way it's going to get done. It's not going to get done through keyboard theatrics. It's not going to get done through press releases, politicians, media. It's going to be done room by room like this, door by door, the old-fashioned way. And we're well on the way to doing it. And it really stands out. So another turning point that happened, though, was COVID, the lockdowns, because that really took a passive, docile population and made them realize just how vulnerable they were to an authoritarian government. I mean, it doesn't matter where you stand on some of those issues, vaccines and so on. That's different things to be discussed at different meetings. The main thing that stood out with me was the authoritarianism, the crackdown, the reduction of choice, and it was terrifying to see how quickly and passively people went into it. Some stood up and they got shut down, they got ostracized. But a lot of people remember it. They remember it today. And that's part of why they're saying something has to change. The system has to change. My individual rights must be protected. We're one more virus away from being locked down again. We're one more virus away from having my business shut down again. One more virus away from having our family split up over personal fights because of all the BS that was going around on media about whether a person's choice in vaccination was dangerous or not. And we've got to do something to prevent that. There's much more to it. It goes much deeper. I mean, it's systematic problems. So how many people here, this is your first APP meeting? Look at that. That's awesome. And that's what I'm talking about with this difference of a wave that came in. If we remember when Trudeau got reelected and everybody was furious and Wexit formed and hundreds of thousands of people signed up and some big rallies were held and big meetings, 6 months later, 20 people, 30 people to a room. It's different this time. And not only are the people coming out, but as we've seen, new people are coming out. It's growing, it's spreading, the groundwork's happening. And this is terrifying, the government, because they can't stop this. They're not getting between you and me here. I mean, they got between independent media started to roll. We were doing all right with the Standard, Epoch Times, other areas are all right. And what happened? The Media Act, we got knocked off of Meta, Facebook, lost some reach. But we still hung in there. Now they're subsidizing legacy media, but we're still hanging in there. But even then, they might get in, they might shut us down, who knows? But they can't shut down rooms like this. They can't shut down these networks. This is a true grassroots movement. Something I like to talk about a lot. So this is, you came here not just to listen to me rant and rave, though I'm glad some of you did, but also to get some, I hope, like to think informative things out of this. So in this, the campaign for independence is now. We're not waiting for a judge's ruling on a question or a premier to say we can have the question. If the referendum is 5 years from now or if it's 5 weeks from now, we're campaigning today, and you have to. I'm very optimistic about the independence, but I'm also realistic about it. I know some people have been saying, if a vote were held tomorrow, we'd be out. Well, I really doubt it. I hate to say that. I wish that was the case. I think we got a ways to go. It's stronger than it's ever been. There's a lot of people, when you look at the polls, when the strongest polls, when they're 47, 48%, remember the question's usually asked, would you consider independence? Putting that actual X on the box is a big decision. That's a life-changing, a country-changing, a world-changing decision, and people won't take it lightly. And more people are moving towards that decision than they ever have before, but we still need more. And the most effective tool is you. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's the truth. We know that from regular political campaigning. I managed campaigns for the Wildrose. Your strongest touch on a voter is getting your candidate to the door face-to-face to talk to a voter. You can't beat it. There's no better way. all the technology, all the communications, if you look, even the biggest of campaigns, there's some bad candidates who don't do it and they ride on the party wave, but most of them get out there and pound the pavement because they have to. Who do you trust more in the world? Again, the media guy, the politician? No, you trust your family members, your friends, your coworkers, the guy at the bar you talk about sports with, all sorts of people you speak with one-on-one. Those are the ones who make an impact on you. Those are the discussions that set in with people, not a column that I wrote or an event that happened in Parliament. The real thing that happens is those discussions. And when you have those person to person, because I bet a lot of the new people who came here tonight didn't see an ad or something like that. It was probably a friend or somebody else who told them this was coming or told them about what's happening here. An ad wouldn't have brought them in, but a friend suggesting it will. And sometimes people take a few discussions to get there. And we've got to, when I spoke to a lot of APP events in the past, we call it the Alberta Ambassador Tour. I was out with Chris and Dennis Modry. And it's the Independence Ambassador, I should say. You're the ambassador for it. And as frustrated as you might get with another person, you can't push. You can't get in their face. They're still Albertans. And emotions are real and emotions are strong and people have attachments. And what do you do when someone gets in your face? Well, usually you dig your heels in and give them the finger. Or at least I do. But if they come in politely and with understanding and they back off if you show no interest, you might be interested later. Don't write people off. But always look for opportunities. You're campaigning, you're the ambassador. Where is your spot? Is it watching a kid's soccer game and you got a moment talking to somebody next to you? Or is it at the lounge when you're watching a game with somebody there? Or is it a coworker when you're hanging out at lunch break? Those are the chances to talk to people and get them involved and build that real movement, make that real decision. I spoke at a gathering a little while ago that was, of course we didn't hold one on November 11th, but it was near it. And that's one of those emotional moments for a lot of people. I hear that a lot. I mean, oh, you wouldn't believe the inbox I get in my email. But especially when it comes to independence, some people saying, you know, my father, my grandfather, or I fought and others died for Canada. No, they didn't. They fought for freedom. They happened to be with Canada at the time. But that impression, that feeling, that attachment is real. And we can't just dismiss it. If we've shed that and looked at Canada can still be Canada, it'd just be a part of history, we'd have a different contract, we'd have a different agreement. Cold, clinical, but true. But that's not going to move a person emotionally away from that. That takes some time. That takes some effort. That takes back and forth conversations. And we can do that, and it's happening. Now I'll talk on the political front because they're doing us a lot of favors in Ottawa. They are making our job easier all the time. So something else I think some people are realizing, and we see it, which is why it flares up after an election, is the futility of trying to get change through the established system. We just keep running into the wall and running into the wall. The more they abuse us, the more Central Canada votes for them. It's just the nature of Canada. So we saw the budget vote come and go. I was never under any illusion that it was going to come down. People were saying there might be an election. That's just media trying to make things sound exciting. Don't worry, the Conservatives knew they were not going to bring that government down under any circumstances because they weren't ready for an election. That's the way the game works. They're there to get elected. That's their mandate. I mean, there's some very good members of Parliament, very good workers within the Conservative Party, very good Albertans within them. But the game, when it comes to that level, all it's about is getting elected and staying elected. And guess what? You don't do that by pandering to Alberta. You only do it in Central Canada. The other thing, if you're involved with parties, you know the bigger parties, the major parties, one of their biggest expenditures is polling. They're polling all the time. The bigger parties have in-house pollsters. They hire their own. You don't hear about them. They're the best polls you can get because they're internals. They want the real numbers, not necessarily the numbers they want to hear, but they want to see the real numbers. And if they're seeing numbers saying we're not going to win an election, they're not going to bring this government down. So 2 members didn't vote Matt Genereux for whatever bizarre reason. I'll give Shannon a pass. Perhaps, I'm not going to question it was a medical thing, fine. Even if those 2 had shown up, the whip would have made sure that a couple others got a case of stomach illness all of a sudden and went out the door and made sure that vote got through. This has happened before. They call it the parliamentary flu. It's nothing new. But it's another indication. So one of the worst budgets we've ever seen in Canadian history, and the party that should stand up and take them down over it can't. They're handcuffed because they feel they would have given them an even stronger majority if they went to an election tomorrow. Because the system is broken. You see, it's not the election that's broken. It's not the turnout that's broken. It's not even the people in Central Canada who vote who are broken, not most of them. It's the system. Don't take it personally. It's the way it works. You can't get into power out there with that. So we should keep voting federally, keep paying attention to those things. It's not going away until we are independent. But we can't put our hopes on having substantive change come from it. The best we'll get from a Conservative government that comes in is that they'll hurt us less than the Liberals. But I'm afraid that's it. Again, there'll be some good people. You might get a little better speaking, but the system won't change. For those of us old enough to remember, and there's a couple of us in here, Charlottetown and Meech Lake, they didn't even come close to coming through, and those are relatively modest constitutional changes. So I've said this one a lot of times before, but I'm going to say it again, because when I'm talking about that ambassadorship, when I'm talking about speaking with other people, my favorite conversation starter to bring that in, because it's a difficult one. In non-political like that, I like to ask them, starting out, well, if, let's say Alberta was independent, let's say all 10 provinces, you've probably heard this analogy, a few of us use it. We're already independent. And somebody says, let's bring them all together into one federation. We can all be together, we'll be stronger, we'll have a bigger international presence, we'll share our resources. Cool, that sounds interesting. Would you sign on to that, though, under the terms that we have today? By the way, you're going to join that federation, you're going to be screwed in the Senate, you're going to be underrepresented in Parliament, Quebec is going to run the deal, and your resources are going to be shut in, and you're going to be called assholes every time you complain. No, I wouldn't sign that. Well, then why are you putting up with it today? Because that's where we are now. But you reverse the discussion. And it gets people thinking. So then you start saying, well, what in the deal would you change to make it acceptable? Would it be Senate representation? Would it be some sort of constitutional change, some sort of new legislative change? When you start walking down that, and people will come up with ideas, they'll come up with things they want to change, and just keep the conversation going, because the outcome is going to come the same all the time. You're going to hit a brick wall. Yes, but we can't do that without Quebec's permission. Yes, but we're not going to do that without changing the Constitution. And that's when you start gaining an independent supporter. Because then you start to realize the only possible catalyst in this broken system to be able to rebuild it, whether it's a new federation of very independent provinces or absolutely independent provinces or whatever it's going to be, is going to be a referendum vote with a province leaving. Nothing less. I want Alberta to be the first one. I'll settle for Quebec, but I think we can beat them to it. And we've got to learn from Quebec instead of getting mad at them all the time. I get mad at them all the time. I rant at them. They're one of my favorite people to pick on X. Part of it's envy, gotta admit. What's going to happen when they're talking about the referendum question if the judge says, no, it's not constitutional, Alberta can't hold it? You see, that would apply to Quebec too. That would mean Quebec could never have an independence referendum either. You know what Quebec's going to say? We don't care what your judge says. That's all. We're going to hold our referendum, and you're going to abide by it, or we'll just leave. That's really all it needs to take. I mean, it's a constitutional referendum. By definition, and I'm not trying to make the case for the people trying to stop the petitioning and the referendum. It's a referendum to break out of the Constitution. It's by its very nature unconstitutional. So I don't see how a judge could say it's constitutional. It's a bizarre play on words. So getting more onto current events. Who's going to the AGM for the UCP next week? Yeah, I figured it'd be a few. Even in Edmonton, eh? Sure was a big one here last year. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. Some people are frustrated with the UCP, thinking maybe it's not moving fast enough, not moving hard enough. I put pressure on all the time. I've put out videos, written columns. I still think Premier Smith is the best thing we've had in Alberta for a long, long time, imperfect as she may be. And we've got to look at a bit of political pragmatism. If she wanted to go hardline independence supporting, the party will split. And then we'll be saying Premier Nenshi. And we will not see a referendum for a long, long, long time. It doesn't mean we have to roll back and take anything from a UCP that's nothing but a pragmatic party. It means you got to get there, go to these AGMs, take part, look at the people going up for the board, see if they are common sense people, independence-minded people. Again, not trying to turn it into an independence party. Because we looked in the last elections how independence parties do. They don't. It's not the route to go. The referendum's the route to go. But we want an independence-friendly UCP. And I think we have one. I mean, Premier Smith, if she was fully opposed to independence, all she has to do is say, I won't give you a referendum. It's fully within her authority. It's within her authority to give us one too. And we need to, in my view, politely pressure the UCP, your members, the board members, to continue to give us the referendum. I think politically it's a nice thing for them anyways. They can focus on all the other nightmares they're dealing with, and there's lots, and leave us to the referendum. We'll take care of that. Just give us the referendum, and we'll be out of your hair. Well, you'll be dealing with things the day after the referendum vote, but we'll worry about that then. Because they do have a lot of things to deal with. We've got a bigger culture war going on right now, and it's serious. You look at the battles going on provincially with Premier Smith on 100 fronts, and you dig down, and 99% of the time there's a union at the bottom of it. Organized labor used to be bringing in quiet backdoor socialism. Now they're coming in to try and bring in overt socialism. They're trying to take over this province. And they're firing with all guns because they're terrified of the independence movement. They're terrified of a UCP that actually is the most conservative we've had since Ralph Klein. And they want to rip it down by any possible means they can. And the money is coming into them, and it's coming from outside because the rest of Canada is afraid of us too. That came out recently. That was a story broken by CBC. I'll give Markusoff credit for a change. Good work. I hope Jason's not watching. I don't compliment him. But NEDSHI has been getting funding. They've been contracting American sources for their public relations. They've been getting funding from outside. Again, union money, things like that. It's dirty. They want to knock this down. And it's not fully because of what Premier Smith's doing, it's because of what's happening in here right now tonight. They can see it too. They're doing polling. They're running their internals. And as I said, we wouldn't win an independence referendum tomorrow, but we can win it next year. But we got to work our asses off to get there. It's going to be a lot to do. There's going to be a lot of people to win one by one. It's going to take a campaign. And the great thing with all these newly activated political people is wonderful. It's the fresh blood, but they're also inexperienced. So that's why we got to come out to these meetings. That's why we got to network. That's why we got to talk, because we do have to come at it with a plan. You know, you can't just throw the spaghetti at the wall and hope you can win this. It's going to be like an election campaign, but it won't have that centralized party leadership. You won't have 87 campaign managers and a central party with a communications department that can give you standardized literature and door knocking and all of that sort of stuff. We all got to sort that out ourselves. And we can, but it's going to be tougher because you don't have that mechanism there. The APP is building that, though. And again, that's where I'm thrilled. I'm really happy with that. Some of the people have been saying, too, you know, well, who is the leader? Who is the leader who's going to bring us out of all of this? I don't know. I kind of like it where it is right now. There's a few people speaking for the movement in general, but there's no one particular person. And that's fine, because if you have a movement that's based on one person, all you got to do is get rid of one person and the movement's screwed. Who do you get rid of to stop this? You can slow things down. So I kind of like it where it's sitting right now. And no one individual can manage to tear this sort of thing down. But I see, you know, again, what are we looking at? I don't want to rant too long. I can go quite a while. But I like the question and answer part. I was speaking to somebody earlier about that in a room where everybody's standing and such to get through things. Because I learn things at these as well. Because people always ask me things I never even thought of. And then it's good, because I'll have an answer for it the next time. So I do one of those weird things, honestly. When I don't know something, I hate it when it happens. I like to think it doesn't happen too often. My wife says it happens a lot. I admit it, though. Okay, sometimes I'll just say I don't know. Eventually you run out of things. I've got a long way to go yet. So we'll move on to the open mic if we could, I guess, and I imagine some folks that have some questions and see where we can go with this.
Brandy's going to go around with the mic. I just wanted to say quickly, my name is Lynn Hambley, and I'm a provincial leader for Central. Thank you all for showing up. There will be another event in January, but it'll be bigger. So mark your calendars, keep watching. Brandy does a fantastic job of marketing. There will be posters out, and we probably need 3 times the number of people come January. And I'd really like to plug that tonight, this is a chapter meeting. And one of the reasons we have these is we need volunteers. We right now are in campaign mode, absolutely. And we need people that are willing to help us gather those actual signatures when we get the go time. So For that, we are asking, you have to sign an NDA, because at that point you would be given a list of names that is confidential to the APP. So please, consider volunteering. They have all the forms that you need at the tables to get signed up. As much as possible, we hope to drive people to you and not have to door knock. So if you have mobility issues, if you have limited time, we still need you. We can use you. We need everybody. So please, consider doing that. And I'd really like to compliment or say that Red Deer's done such a fantastic job in getting this together. In the summer they got started, they had nothing, and we've gone from nothing to this. And Darren with the door hanging campaign, it's really good. So thank you guys, and let's make January bigger and better.
Are we doing question and answer now?
Yeah, if you're ready, sure. I could babble more if you want.
Does anybody have a question?
So policy states that in order for us to become independent, we need to have a clear majority after the referendum. What is a clear majority?
Yeah, isn't it ironic in saying clear majority, it's anything but? I mean, if you wanted to be clear, it would say 50% plus one, or it would say 55%, or give a hard number. I've had this discussion with people too. I don't know. There's one of the areas where I'll say it, but I'll talk about what we need to do. This referendum has to be won by at least 55 to 60% of the province, at least. Like, we have to shoot for the goalposts and beyond it. Because if it is 50% plus one, we've got a recipe for civil war, or at least a recipe for it being tied up in the courts to the point where people will lose interest and we'll just have fallen back into where we used to be. So I don't know 100% what would be considered a clear majority. I don't think 50% plus one would withstand a court challenge. Even if it did, they would bung it up in the courts for 6 months fighting it or recounting. So let's shoot for, I think, a minimum of 55, hopefully 60. And I also just honestly feel morally about it. It's a big question. It's a big decision. I want to be confident that the majority of the province wants to go to. It's our job to win the majority of them over. So the hard number isn't there, but I'd say we have to be realistic in looking at least 55, where it's unquestioning that it was a majority, and hopefully more.
Hey, Cory, I was just wondering if you knew what happened in court today with Eva and Jeff and Mitch.
I don't know the outcome yet. I saw some posts with them making their case. For people not familiar with it, I guess I'll give some background. Thanks, Wade. And, the question has been put forth now to a judge to ask whether or not it is constitutional to put it to a referendum in order for it to happen. And today, I think yesterday it started. The court hearings are happening to have the debates and discussion on it. There's interveners. We got Fabio, I think, in there, and First Nations bands, NDP members, and the usual interveners pushing for that. I don't know what the outcome is. And that's part of why I was saying in advance, though, I think we've got to take an approach like Quebec. No matter what that outcome is, we're going ahead anyway.
I've heard various comments about how long you have to be a resident of Alberta to be able to vote on a referendum. Can you speak to that?
I know within the legislation for recall, so I'm hoping it's the same, because I just recently read that. You have to be a resident of that constituency there for 3 months. So for a referendum, it might be similar, and that's difficult in Canada because it's interprovincial. It's not a citizenship thing going on. Just another side note on something that Premier Smith brought out that I hope comes along is putting citizenship on driver's licenses. Because non-citizens shouldn't vote in a referendum, but it's going to be really hard to determine who is or isn't unless it's on the license. So maybe that can get done in time. But I believe it's 3 months. It's probably the same for a referendum as a recall. He's also known as Thomas Lukasik to some.
a sad little man.
So, Cory, I'm wondering if you are familiar with Bruce Party.
I'm sorry, with it?
Bruce Party?
Oh, yes, he's been on my show a number of times.
Okay. He has come out in the last 10 days telling us why this question even had to go to the court, and telling us that the Alberta government has thrown a monkey wrench into the works. And I'm really, really concerned about that. I'm glad to see that Jason Stefan is here. Maybe he can take this forward to the party, but like there are two legislative things, one in the Citizen Initiative Act and one in the Referendum Act. And they are going to put up huge barriers to this movement. It doesn't matter if we vote for independence. Those two legislative pieces are going to stop this.
Well, I wouldn't go as definitive as saying they're going to, but they're a handicap. Bruce is correct. I mean, he's quite a character. I love talking with Bruce. He's more of the political philosopher, and he's a law professor from Queen's University, for those who aren't familiar with him. He put a proposed constitution out for an independent Alberta that'd be very scaled down, like a libertarian's wet dream. As aroused as it made me, I think it might not be quite realistic, but Bruce and I will talk about that another time. Getting back to what you're asking about, part of, I think, what happened was also with the pushback when the legislation was made realistic from Jason Kenney's fake referendum legislation. People were saying the Constitution could be violated by a referendum on independence. And I believe it was, in my view, a bit of a panic move by saying, well, we're going to put it right into it to make sure that no question can be non-constitutional. And as I said earlier, well, we're looking to leave the country, of course it's non-constitutional. But that is what the justification was for the electoral officer to say, well, I have to put this to the court because I'm not sure if it's constitutional or not. That's where I'm saying we have to be active and stand up and not care, because it's just a matter of legislation, and that can be changed, and that's our legislation. It means we'd have to put pressure on our provincial government to correct that. There's still nothing to stop the government from setting a date and giving us a referendum. That's the pressure I believe we have to apply. I don't think we should try and get Smith to endorse a yes vote. I think that would be ridiculous. Her role is to be the one in the front talking and stay on whatever side she may stay on. She's just there as a premier for Alberta. A lot to do as it is. We'll worry about the rest. But yes, there's a concern, and that's why it's in the court right now. All I can say is if the courts rule against, we go to plan B, then we go to plan C, and we go to plan D, but we aren't giving up. We're getting a referendum.
Hi, thank you for being here, Cory. I've been following you for quite some time, and the Western Standard's fantastic, of course. So I'm really glad that you came out and talked about the UCP and how this movement should probably be supporting them. My question is the Alberta Republican Party, how much steam are they building? Are they looking at a province-wide run in the next election, and what are the chances there? I think everybody in this room, Cory's absolutely right. We need to back a horse that has a chance of actually winning an election. And if the Republican Party takes hold and a lot of people here defect to the Republican Party, you're going to end up with Premier Nenshi.
Yeah, well, the Republican Party is an interesting case for a few reasons. I don't know how far down this rabbit hole I want to go. Let's just say I'm not a friend of it. One of the things I'd want to see if the Republican Party is real, let's see them fill a room like this. I've never seen any grassroots movement from that party whatsoever. I've seen them run around in matching uniforms with hired help, but I've never seen an organization. I've seen a self-appointed leader who got a six-figure deposit into a dead party's bank account, who's been putting out press releases and buying tickets to go into big political events and getting his selfies with them and pretending he's talking to people who care what he thinks. Though, okay, there's my nasty part. Catty Cory. Cam and I have had issues in the past. All the same, if they did get it together, if them or another party starts rising up and gaining steam and getting a foothold, it is a terrible risk. It very much would lead to probably Premier Nenshi. If an Independence Party even polled 10%, that would be enough to lose a whole pile of urban ridings, and that would turn the scale altogether. So we really have to tread with care. But it gives the independence movement a lot of leverage with the provincial government. They're keenly aware that they don't need that rift. They don't need people marching out of the UCP and forming and supporting a party like this. So they are going to be, that's why they haven't completely dismissed or been nasty to independence movements, because it's a faction of their party. But people have to remember too, what is it, some of the polls showed that as many as 60% or more of UCP members support independence. That's fine. But as your party, you can't, and because that's not a minor policy. We're not talking about a small thing. That's a deal breaker for a lot of people. That's the type of policy where people stay or go on. So if the UCP took a full independence stance, turned into an independence party, you can expect at least 20% of their own members to march out the door. The other risk as well is if they came out completely against independence, really did shut down our ability to have a referendum or organize or have a future, that will bring the risk about of just such a party forming that'll cut into that vote and cause some real serious problems. But they're not fools. I suspect, they're keenly aware of this. We just have to keep communicating, keep being proactive, keep trying to keep decent people in there as much as we can. It's politics, I know. You're separating fly poop from pepper. But there are good people in there. And I'm not worried about the Republican Party, but I am worried about a real party rising up if things don't go the right way, because it really could set us back.
Hi, Cory. Over here. If we ever got to a referendum and we wanted to get it past the 51 like you were talking about, I see one of the biggest issues being the CPP. And how do you get $330 billion Albertan pension dollars out of the grimy hands of the federal government back into Alberta? Like, I don't see them letting that go. I would love to tell my neighbor that we're going to get that money back, but how does that actually happen?
Yeah, and it's a very good one. And that's part of why the APB really focused a lot on doing a lot of touring and talking about the pension plan with Tanner and others. To begin with, it's one of the things, hopefully we're moving on more provincially with our own provincial plan anyway. So let's get that question out of the way so it isn't even a part of an independence referendum. It's already done. But at a lot of town hall meetings, there's a lot of people who are very dependent on the current pension plan, and they're scared, and they have a right to be. A crappy pension plan is better than no pension plan, and if a person's on a fixed income, it could be a real problem if suddenly that's not coming back in. I believe, and that's where Tanner and I and others debated, I believe the government really overshot with that first study, thinking that we would get such a large piece of it. And it was almost a too good to be true scenario. But even talking to, say, Trevor Toome, an economist who's fairly liberal-minded, and he was talking that we'd be entitled to, even at the lowest end, 15% of the capital that's in there. So if we're coming into our own plan, if we started even with that principle, it's a good start. And we could maintain the benefits with contributions with a whole new plan here with a bigger nest egg than we began with already. If it's post-independence, one of the things we got to remember, but it is a question mark when people are going door to door when you're talking to friends and so on. Let's say we voted, 60% of Albertans said we're done, we're out, we want to go independent. Fantastic. That's certainly my dream. That, according to the Clarity Act, begins the negotiation. Hate to say it, but we're got to be at least a couple of years back and forth negotiating on things like debt, pensions, federal properties. I had a great person give me a question talking about prisons. What do we do with prisoners who live or who are in a federal prison in Alberta who live in a different part of the country? What about Albertan prisoners in other parts of Canada? Do we want them back? Well, we have to take them maybe, but these are big questions. It's going to be complicated. But those are what will have to be ironed out the day after. We're going to have a lot of, if this happens, and we were talking about in the future, if it happens, we've had 60% of this province vote to go. We've got a lot of leverage with the rest of Canada. If they really want us to take a bite of the debt, then they better start talking about some of our assets, such as the pension plan and properties and things like that. It takes back and forth, but it is a complicated discussion. The main thing is just assuring people, come on, we care for each other. We want a pension plan. No Alberta independence movement or people are going to leave our seniors hanging without a pension plan. It'll be the same or better than whatever we left.
would you still not be a dual citizen and have entitlements to the CPP?
That depends on the negotiations, whether it's a full exit and then a person takes their assets at that point. There's a lot back and forth. Transferability of pensions, though, is nothing new. There's plenty of people who have moved countries and they'll get a pension from their past country and they get a pension in their new country. If, again, if that doesn't get negotiated through and we don't say have it that way, where pension plan payments are coming from former Canada to Albertans, well, we'll just cut that out of the debt that they think that we're going to take on.
Hi, Cory. Just continuing on with this gentleman's question. You talked that we're going to have a negotiating team. The issue I run into when I talk to people about this is they want to know when and who is going to take over after the referendum. And they don't want Smith.
Yeah.
They don't want them shit. Okay?
I hear you.
And that, but they want to know who is going to be doing it.
It's one of those I don't knows at this point.
I know. And how do we tell them which way we're going?
For the immediate term, I mean, again, we're getting into a theoretical. So let's say the magic happened. We had 60% vote to go. That means we're in quite a world of flux and disruption and change and such. There's going to be a number of people raising their hands. I think at that point, either a sitting premier is going to stand up and say, I've got to lead it into this independence, or you say, well, this is beyond my mandate, I'm going to step back, or we'll have an election or something of the sort. I think immediately there'd probably be some form of committee with a number of people getting together. I mean, it's going to be a big transition. But if somebody's asking for names right now, it's just impossible to gauge at this point with something that might happen later.
What I mean is, are we going to have a section in our Constitution that's going to allow a time frame to elect a negotiating team, or is it just going to be appointed?
There's nothing specifying how we would get that negotiating team. That's part of what I talk about, why we should stay active actually within the party and the government, so we have as many good independence-minded people involved, so when that time comes, hopefully they're as cooperative as possible.
What are your thoughts if Quebec separated first? Would that take some of the wind out of the sails of the Alberta independence movement?
Absolutely not. I think it would be magnificent. Don't let the door hit your ass. But when any province, whether it's Quebec, Saskatchewan, Alberta, who knows what might be happening, the first province that goes, that shatters the deal. The dominoes are going to fall. The federation is going to be finished. And everybody's going to be renegotiating. So if we've suddenly got Quebec voting, and that's I wanted to talk about that tonight, and I forgot my earlier part, because that's an interesting development. Their independence movement is really growing out there, and there's a very good chance they got a referendum coming. And no, I think their exit would be even better for us. It just destabilizes the entire system and makes it easier for everybody else to say, well, it's broken now, let's just finish the job.
How much credence do we give to Lukaszuk? He claims to have 400,000 plus signatures, right? What if he gets the referendum and heaven forbid people vote 60% yes to his question? What happens to our movement?
Well, we didn't do our job well enough. But he really did get those, but we got to remember, how? That's an interesting thing. It really is interesting. How did he do that? That's when we're talking about those unions, because they have a network. They have hundreds of thousands of people. But they don't have millions. A referendum is a whole different ballpark. It's a whole different thing. I'm just, hey, he used the legislation in good faith as it was built. He pulled the trigger on us. I don't like giving that big hair jerk off credit, but it was the kind of stunt I'd do if I was on the other side as well. But then turn it about, and that's the way that we've talked about it. We've got, and I wrote a column on that recently, we've clearly got hundreds of thousands of people on the stay in Canada side who want a referendum. We know there's hundreds of thousands of people who want to leave Canada want a referendum. That just tells me we should have a bloody referendum. We just don't need, it doesn't have to be in his phrasing. It's the same question, it's just how we're asking it. So if that comes about, even through his, that's fine. But let's make it, I think, a positive a yes. He asked for it anyways. He can come out and vote no. And let's have it out. That's the whole goal. But we do have to work to win it. It does show. We can't underestimate them. They do have organization.
So I've heard a few things now. I thought it sounds like everybody here wants to join, be the 51st state. And I think that's not the right thing. How can you be independent if you want to join the United States? Like, that's like looking for another sugar daddy to support you.
Yeah, well, the 51st state thing, I think, kind of had a bit of a flair with Donald Trump mentioning it and really trolling the prior prime minister and so on. Back when I toured with Dennis Modry and Chris Scott a couple of years ago, actually, he started a lot of the meetings off. Dennis would always do that and poll the room and talk about people's different visions of independence a couple of years ago. Would you want to see a completely independent Alberta? Would you want to see Alberta and Saskatchewan and a few together? Would you want more power in Canada? But when he asked about 51st state, only a handful of people put their hands up. There's some very dedicated people to it, but they are a minority within a minority. I'd say if somebody wants to go that route, what we have to do, we have to come independent first, and then the 51st state supporters can campaign on that after and try and convince the majority of Albertans. But it isn't really a consideration. Developing a relationship with the United States, of course, is critical. But the 51st state thing, I don't think holds much water, and I don't think there's much organization for it right now.
I'm curious how you respond to someone that would say it's all sounds way too good to be true.
Well, that's where I like to try and be realistic. That's where I like to say, no, we're not going to win it tomorrow. We do want to be truthful. That's why I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I think we shouldn't be afraid to say that with other people. People's BS detectors are good. I think, as I said, I think that was one of the mistakes when the first run to bring the Alberta pension plan in. When they got too optimistic with what they felt we would get, it set off people's saying, geez, that just does sound too good to be true. So we got to be realistic with what we're selling. I mean, I'll tell you something that's also truthful. If we have a positive vote in a referendum, 60%, our economy is going to take a crap. It's going to be shaken up. Investment's going to dry up for a little while. It's going to be a tough period. It's going to be a period of flux. It's going to be a period of instability. I mean, we got to be honest about that. This is a big change, a big leap. Investment hates question marks, and there's no bigger question mark than, well, 60% of the province now wants to split, but we're into 2 years of negotiation. So don't sugarcoat that, but also point out that it will be short-term pain for long-term gain, and we will win in the end. We just have to be honest. Honesty, Albertans can smell the BS. So if we're honest, we'll win.
Hi, Cory. Do you think that the Crown will let us leave?
Don't care. But I mean, not trying to be too flippant about it, there's been some people who actually said that it's the Crown that owns Alberta, and we would have to get technically their permission. There's a lot of theories on things, and people take them seriously, and that's fine. But really, they are now just a tradition. The best service they provide is having somebody on our currency besides Pierre Trudeau. And, but they are a figurehead sort of thing. If King Charles tried to intervene in a Commonwealth country's independence movement, that would really spell the end of all vestiges of the Crown as far as it's considered anymore. Some of the people talk about treaty rights supposedly, overrunning our ability to hold a referendum, or Crown land, saying that that's federal land, not provincial. And the Crown owns it. We can't leave because it's King Charles. And that's just not true. It's a figure of speech from an older time that we maintain, but they really don't hold any real authority any longer. I mean, I know theoretically the Governor General can refuse to sign off on legislation, but the Governor General is also appointed by the Prime Minister. So it's a theoretical power. But it's somewhat a valid question, but I don't think it's going to become an issue, to be honest.
Yeah, so we talked about earlier that the old age security, pensions, but they also talked about not having any income tax for Alberta residents. How are they going to generate money to pay for the CPP or the APP and the old age security? Are they going to be taxing like individual companies, or are we going after oil and gas? How's that revenue going to generate?
Yeah, the APP has a large document online they put together with the finances and what they think, and some of it does sound a little too sugar-coated in my view, but they're campaigning. Well, we should still try to look for honesty. It's a good question, because as I said, that instability that's first going to come, we're not going to be raining money the day after an independence vote. In fact, it's going to kind of tighten up for a little while. We could get rid of income taxes. I mean, theoretically, we've got to remember that, yeah, we have an outward flow of, what, 20, 30 billion a year that we're not getting services back with. That's going to stop. That's money that's going to stay here. And that gives us a good chunk for either tax reduction, program spending, other items. But at the same time, that outflow of tax money is under the presumption that we still have a stable economy that's chugging along. And if we have that disruption, that might cut in half for a little while. So we shouldn't overpromise, but economically, the numbers are there. We will be better off independent. There's no getting around that. Alberta gets taken to the cleaners by hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars over the years for services we don't get back. And if we keep that here, we will be better. That's also leads on to something else, though. I think if we want to sell the case of independence and how we'd be fiscally better the day after independence, we have to clean up our own backyard first. And as far as I checked, the province is running a deficit too. So stay on your elected members. We've got to tighten up. We've got to be conservatives as well, because people have a valid question saying, well, if I'm just going to get a smaller version of the same thing, I'm not going to be any better. So that's kind of up to us as well.
My question to you would be, I'm over here. My question to you is, with this movement going on and the strength that it's going to attain, how are we going to deal with the World Economic Forum, the WHO, and their Agenda 2030, which is being fast-tracked, and they have a lot of influence?
Well, the best way to deal with them is become independent. It's kind of a self-answering question. I mean, they're going to influence our federal government. They're even influencing our municipal governments. It's horrible. As an independent province, we don't have to deal with those organizations. So why the hell would we? But that just tells me one more reason to get out. Because no, we can't avoid their influence until we get out.
A bit of a hypothetical. So let's say we did win the referendum and we got independence. Has there been any discussion that in terms of that we're not going to be in the same situation as we are now if we were an independent Alberta and then all of the rural is going to be controlled by Edmonton and Calgary? So would there be something in place like down in the States with an electoral college or something like that so that there's equal representation throughout the whole province as to opposed to just the two major centers, and they would be dictating what we would be having to deal with?
No, that's a great question. It's something this party mentioned when he was on my show. We really agreed on. If we became independent and then just brought in the same centralized sort of system, we just left, boy, are we ever stupid. So now we've just got a smaller version. As you said, Edmonton could be dominating rural areas. So we have to plan a whole new system. We have to have a system that doesn't have other regions, overstepping and crushing others. There's a number of systems to do that. A true bicameral system with a Senate based on, equal number of senators for area and then a rep by pop in another house is one way, because our Senate's, a joke and it doesn't really represent anybody. Something I've gone on about a lot, I talk about in my book, but one system I really love is the Swiss system. Does anybody know who the head of the Swiss government is federally? No, because their federal government is nothing. It's tiny. It doesn't mean much to them. Their federal government's mandate is so small, it just manages military, currency, postal, and international relations. Other than that, everything goes down to the cantons. So it's a country that small with 26 little units in it that are very autonomous and very different. They got 4 official languages. We can't even manage 2. And the reason for that is because unlike Canada, where we have 2 official languages, but we're trying to shove one down the throat of the other over there, what they do is say, you can have yours there and leave that one alone to have theirs there, and they give that autonomy. Some of those cantons are very socialist, some of them are very capitalist. And look, there's no separatist movement in Switzerland because you don't have that top-down government and you allow the regional disparity. So, but that's just one model. But yes, we have to come up with a new governance model. We don't want to recreate what we just managed to leave. And just pass along, the APP has something being released soon, I guess, to address some of those things as well. As I said earlier, I'm pretty pumped on the APP, but I'm not a member, so I don't have inside info on them until they whisper in my ear later.
Hi, Cory. With a successful referendum, what are the plans for immigration from Canadians wanting to come and join the bandwagon here?
See, I told you there'd be some good questions, wouldn't there? I think we would treat it like any kind of immigration, though. So, just to have a rational discussion on it, they would be, in some senses, depending on their reasons for coming, perhaps some of our ideal immigrants. They're already used to a similar culture, though our cultures are different across the country. There's rarely a linguistic barrier. If they're coming for economic reasons to come to a free Alberta and be in a freer place than what they're leaving, I say bring them on in. I mean, the mass immigration that we're bringing in from other areas isn't doing us any favors right now. But like any immigration, we can't make the mistake with Canada of just letting the floodgates open. You've got to have a system. You've got to have vetting. You've got to have applications, whether they're coming from Canada, the United States, India, Brazil, wherever it might be. I mean, do we need more of the skills that this person is presenting when they're coming to apply? Do they share, and that's one of the tougher ones, some of the values that we have here, and that's a tough one. But we got to come up with a system that can determine some of those things. Like, just a side note for some who follow me on social media and that, social values, cultural values. I came back from Israel a few weeks ago and touring, not on as a tourist, but as a media member. So I got to go to all of the most horrific of slaughter sites and things like that. And I got to see the worst end of when two cultures really collide, the ugliest aspect of it. And we're seeing that creeping into the UK. We're seeing it creeping into other centers. We're seeing it in Dearborn, Michigan. So we'd better be really careful. And it's a fine line, because you can also get too paranoid and actually truly become intolerant, because we do gain strength from a lot of people coming here. But we just can't have those gates open to anybody, or we're going to make a mess.
I just wanted to tell everyone there's a tremendous YouTube video. It's a documentary just made in the last year or two. It's called A History of Canada. And if you watch that, they can prove why every province in Canada is actually an independent country. The Canadian government is just, it's a sham. We don't really have to use them. We can have our own government. So it's really worthwhile. It's A History of Canada, and it's very well made. It's worth your while to look at it. Thank you.
If we're separate already, why are we worrying about independence? We are independent.
I'm familiar with the documentary, and people are welcome to watch it. That's a theory. I mean, the reality is 90% of Albertans feel that we're in Canada. And I'm going to deal with the Albertan citizens who feel that way, and I don't want us to become independent any other way aside from giving them to vote to choose to say, I want out. So whether it may or may not be actually true, I guess, if you're going to read in old documents and interpret them, the reality of today is we need a democratic movement to independence, and that means a referendum, no shortcuts.
Hey, Cory, me again. I've been to 62 events with Dennis Modry and Mitch Sylvester, and I've learned a couple of things. And one of the things about the 51st state is why would we jump out of the CRA to jump into the IRS? That just makes no sense at all. So that's out of the picture. And the other thing is they have talked to the U.S. folks about becoming the state, and they already have, like Puerto Rico would have to become the 51st state. So they can't even, they wouldn't even go for it themselves. So that's out of the picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different discussion, and it's true. It's not really on the table. What I do look forward to, though, I think, is hopefully a better relationship with the Americans as an independent Alberta. I love the United States. I love Americans. I love their values. I'm tired of our central Canadian leadership using it as a foil for their electoral means to make divisions between us and the United States. I don't care about divisions between me and Montreal. They can have themselves, but I'm pissed off when they get between me and Houston. So we should improve the relationship. But yes, again, the America 51 thing, as was said, we'd have to actually get in line because Puerto Rico has kind of been waiting longer than us.
Anybody else? Oh. Okay.
Oh, I'm fine.
Are we working on our own revenue agency in any way, shape, or form so that we've kind of got, some of that stuff in place before we vote to go? Because some people need some answers to these things. I think a lot of people are feeling like we need to discuss some of these things and kind of know that there's some things that are kind of coming into place, but I haven't heard anything about a revenue agency type of thing. Our own police force. I think Danielle was working on something like that, and she appointed some foreigner over it, or something.
I won't go into who's heading the sheriff's department or things like that, but we've been moving towards a more provincial force. We need to start severing those ties, even if you don't like the leadership perhaps currently who may be coming into it. It's still the better way to go. Things like the RCMP, things like revenue collection, that's been discussed since Stephen Harper put out the Alberta Agenda 20 years ago. I believe Jason Kenney's panel discussed that, as well as having us collecting our own taxes. I'm not sure if Alberta Next covered that or not. But it's been a discussion that's been around a lot. I don't believe it's high on the list of provincial priorities at this point. It's also not something that would be impossible to form in relatively short order the day after an independence vote, or the year or two after the independence vote as we're moving along. If there's one thing that the government's good at is coming up with ways to collect our money. So they will form a local revenue agency quite quickly. Hopefully a decent one, though.
Alberta Next actually did touch on that. Sorry, it's me talking.
Yeah, okay.
Alberta Next did touch
It's always
on that.
behind me.
I know. They actually went through what they were going to do to build their revenue agency.
Okay.
Hi, Cory. Excuse me. I'm just wondering, once we get a referendum and let's say we become our own country, what about Saskatchewan? Like, where are they at with theirs? Like, would we be willing to absorb them or let them join, or would they be better off to do their own thing, so to speak? Or is that too far down the road, I suppose, to really have any clear thought on that? But
what I would like to envision is a very close relationship with Saskatchewan, and I hope they become independent the day after, or maybe the day before. I'm okay either way with it. And we should be very tightly tied. I've done events in Saskatchewan. I was thrilled. I went to Regina. The room was packed. They're as enthusiastic over in Saskatchewan as they are in Alberta, just perhaps not quite as well organized as we are yet. So I think we should start discussing some of those relationships. I'd like to see more outreach between Alberta and Saskatchewan's independence movements. Again, that'll be more things that'll send some chills down the spines of our federalists out east when the western provinces are working more in lockstep. But Saskatchewan should be taken in consideration, but every province has to have their own vote. So it will be up to them.
Good day. Just curious about the people that are in Canada right now on working visas, the ones that are in Alberta. After the referendum goes through, what happens to all these other people?
Yeah, well, if they're temporary visas, they will eventually expire, whether it's theoretically. And I guess we'd have to negotiate that as that goes. Again, it wouldn't be an overnight thing. I think something foolish, we'd already be in a disruptive time. If we start rounding up everybody who's on a temporary visa and deporting them, we're not going to do ourselves any favors. We need to fix the system up, but we need to do it with thought. And because there are reasons people here legitimately to work and or perhaps immigrate long term and so on. So we have to go into it carefully, but that would have to be managed as well. A lot of the questions kind of come to the same thing. It's that period for up to 2-3 years afterwards. There's going to be 1,000 threads to pull and line up and get in order, but I'm confident we can do it.
Hi, Cory. With the Richmond ruling with the Cowichan tribe, how would you deal with the First Nations of Alberta?
Well, the First Nations, I mean, we've got to start getting some realistic discussions with our First Nations. I've written columns on that. As was mentioned, you know, the treaties have been read by some folks. I think a lot of First Nations people haven't. And the treaties are actually pretty straightforward documents. They aren't very long. Most of what they talk about are where the boundaries of the reserve are. And then they do very permanently cede everything else. It's very clear. But the people living on those reserves are Albertans. They're citizens. They deserve all the benefits and rights and everything out of an independent Alberta that we do. It's a really hard area to reach out to. I think there's a lot of bureaucrats, band leadership, people in the Indian industry, some lawyers who make good money out of it, who really stand between the people on the ground and the reserves and everybody else. But as far as a veto power, I was talking about that on Chris's podcast last night. And it's been ruled on, if you want to look at Canadian courts, by the Supreme Court over and over and over again. First Nations do not have veto power over projects or things on Crown land. This has been discussed. It's been covered. People keep saying you need their permission to leave. We don't. Find the spot where it says we do. The worst situation, though, would be partition. What if we became independent, but somehow those were some strange little communities that were a part of Canada within Alberta? That's why I think we got to talk and about decentralizing power. That's why I was talking about the Swiss system, perhaps. You know, the Blood Reserve would make a nice canton of their own. There you go. There's your independent area. There's your sort of province within a province. And perhaps you can build your own economy within a larger unit. I don't know. But people are going to keep throwing that at us and pretending there's a veto, and there is not. It doesn't mean we got to throw it in their face and say we don't need your input. We do. As Albertans, we certainly do. But they can't stop us. They're just Albertans like the rest of us. And we got to quit pretending that they are a different level of citizen. Just one.
Hi, thanks for coming as well. About 10 years ago at the Capri in Red Deer, I was at an Alberta separatism seminar. It was 2 days long, and it was, the final conclusion was there's 9 steps to separate as far as sovereignty goes. And the 9th step is getting the rest of Canada to vote that we can go.
No.
And here's some more couple things.
Yeah.
We had representatives of the PQ and the Bloc were there to talk to us. So I've already listened to all this. And they said it's a 30-year process. That's why they're 30, 40 years into their separation. So to me, we've had these comments about the 51st state. If you get Trump moving tanks and stuff across the border, I think it's the easy way to get our sovereignty. It'd be much easier if we were Americans to get our own sovereignty than staying in Canada and working through this.
Okay, but we don't need the rest of Canada's permission. Whatever that step 9 may have been considered, and I don't think the Triumph tanks are rolling in anytime soon. But you know, point taken. But just a side note with the Canadian military, a Western Standard piece, we have currently with our military 2 generals for every functional tank in our entire military. So we can send them to the front lines. They're not going to last very long. That's a sad thing. We've got 2 admirals for every ship right now, too, or something.
Anybody else? You?
We have a lot of financial ties with the rest of Canada where we're completely interlinked. So people have a loan, for example, from the Royal Bank, who maybe doesn't want to cooperate with this whole idea. How does that get resolved?
Yeah, it would have to. We would have to sort it out over a while. Somebody asked a great question and another one. What about RRSPs? Because that's a tax deferral on federal taxes. And I still owe that money theoretically to the federal government. If I'm independent later, how do I work that out? It's going to take a lot of wrangling, a lot of discussion. One thing I tell people, though, get involved with the Bow Valley Credit Union. Stay local. Move in as fast as you can. They're gold-based. But I mean, still, it's not that easy when your mortgage, your car payment, your RRSPs, your credit cards are all with one of the federal banks. There's no avoiding it. Something I'd like to remind a lot of people of is this isn't the first time it's happened. You know, who can remember? Czechoslovakia, the Velvet Revolution. They split. No bullets fired. They had to deal with separating banks, accounts, collections, pensions. All of that had to be done. Norway and Sweden, they were a union. They separated with a referendum. People forget that. All of that had to be ironed out then too. I think it was probably a lot less complicated in 1905 than now with everything being intertwined. But they're good questions, and it all will have to be resolved. I suspect if we're getting close to an independence vote, a lot of people really are going to be bringing their investments in anyways, just for the sake of self-preservation. But we still have to come up with mechanisms, absolutely. And we'll find ways.
Okay, I just want to mention there is a slow roll convoy that is going out on Saturday. Was asked to mention this. If you want to go north, it's leaving from Bluegrass Sod Farms at 10 a.m. If you want to go south, it's leaving out of the Hideout at 9 a.m. So yeah, there is that happening on Saturday. Is that the farmers' protest? That is, yes, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's your show.
I see somebody. I'm going to come in. Can I squeeze in right there, Bill?
20.
You've already. We're just wondering about the national parks. What would happen with them?
Again, like military bases, it would have to come down to negotiation. It's not reasonable to think it would remain a Canadian national park within Alberta. It's going to become our property, so let's talk about that. Again, cut it out of the debt. We'll work it out, or it's an exchange. Hey, I mean, we own part of the national parks in Ontario and Quebec then, theoretically too, don't we? But it's again, a valid question. National parks, as the other person mentioned, federal penitentiaries, there's federal properties. We just have to negotiate, but there's no way they would remain within federal control in an independent Alberta. It just wouldn't be feasible for anybody.
I just want to say a couple more things because I see people are exiting. It does get to be where they had enough of sitting or standing. But I want to do another little plug for APP. Please go online to the albertaprosperityproject.com. The website is amazing. Everything you've asked, it's there. There's articles, there's videos. Everything that you want to know is on that website. It just takes some time to go there and have a look at it. We have 2 copies left here tonight of The Value of Freedom. This is the financial document that lays out the financial case for leaving. This is also available on the website. You can print it or read it right there. You don't have to buy this. Sometimes it's just nice to have it. If you don't have a printer, you want to see it. There's some small 2-page kind of like the cheat sheet review. I got to admit, this is the one I actually got through. I only got partway through this one. But I didn't need to read that one because I go to all the meetings and I hear what they say and I know that this document is no lie. It's there. As for the Constitution, big question, but I can tell you, there'll be something coming out similar to this because everybody is asking what next, and there has to be some suggestions. So when the paper comes out, it will be a discussion paper, a suggestion, just as this Value of Freedom was a discussion paper. So hang in there. It's all coming. The work has been laid down. Every step is being covered. We know that you all need answers, and they will be there, but just know this. Everything will be decided by you, the Albertans, by a vote. So thank you so much for coming. I'm not rushing you away, but I did want to say those things, and I realized that some people were actually leaving. So thank you so much.
Oh, we've got books over here. So Cory Morgan, His book, the Sovereigntists Handbook, is for sale at his table, so if anybody wants to pick that up. And then also the silent auction for the beautiful Alberta Strong sign that was donated to us.
All right, and I think everybody's kind of wrapping up. It's getting pretty toasty
Yeah,
in here.
it-
I'll hang
it
around
is.
if people
It's
got
kinda
questions. I'm
hot.
happy to chat one-on-one. We'll let folks cool down. Thank you all much for the chance to talk to you, and I learned a lot as well. I love these meetings, so thanks again.
So, is this still on? Just so you know, there was 253 people here tonight.
And 200 people watching online as well.